Hello, random strangers on the internet. I'm Scruffy at Scruffy Tales, and this is the War Zone. And in this video, we will be taking a closer look at the fact that the Archer artillery system has finally officially arrived in Ukraine. And by so doing, it will help out with destroying as much as 75% of Russian forces. And according to official sources, it is the 45th Artillery Brigade that will be equipped with at least some of the archers. And they are based outside of Crimea. We can see here on the map where we have Bakhmut, and north of Bakhmut we have Crimea. And here we have a large forest where the Russians are trying to push through in order to reach a larger river further west of the map. And it also so happens that in this forest we have a lot of Swedish-made CV-90s, as well as in the area we have the Swedish version of the Leopard 2, the STRV 122. And now we are adding Swedish-made archers into the mix. So we have a concentration of Swedish equipment, Swedish firepower, holding the line in the forests west of Crimea. So we basically have a Swedish battalion in full operation in a war zone here with CV-90s, the mechanized part of it all. We have the STRV 122s, the heavy armor, and then the support unit of the archers, allowing for Ukraine to utilize Swedish combined arms tactics and maneuvers. And this is not at all unimportant. Russia has made massive attempts in breaching the line here and all over the northern front as well. And in this section of the front line, Swedish equipment has managed to hold the line until now, and now they are receiving even more firepower in the form of the archers. So that should make things even more troublesome for the Russians as they try to advance through the woods here. And this should probably be pretty interesting for the Swedish military to see how these components work together in a forested environment, as is their intended surroundings up in Sweden, with Sweden being covered 70% by forest. So the Swedish army will really get a really good feel for how the CV-90, how the STRV 122 and the Archer works in combat, works in an actual war, and how they work together. And all of the data from these engagements, from the battles, the issues, what works and what works not, will be obviously shared with Sweden, and then Sweden can improve on either vehicle as needed, making the Swedish army far more deadly than it already is. And on these maps, we get a feel for how effective the Archer can be. I've chosen the ammunition type with the shortest range. So as you can see, the Archer will be able to fire on the Russians indiscriminately, basically from all over the place. Moving close to the front line, it will be able to hit logistic spots. Say it goes south of the river here, finds a good spot to hide. It can still support the frontline troops with accurate fire, even relying on ordinary, unsophisticated ammo. It doesn't need the Excalibur or anything like that. Put in the Excalibur and you get another 10-kilometer range. The range for this particular type of ammunition is 24 kilometers, and the Excalibur, I believe, reaches out to, is it 35? No, 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 sorry, not the Excalibur. I mixed it up with the bonus round. The bonus round reaches out to 35 kilometers. That's the anti-tank artillery shell that deploys heat warheads in midair that then track armored targets. The Excalibur round obviously goes way further than that, something like 45 or 50 kilometers. So a bit of a mix-up. But yeah, as you can tell, even with the most basic ammo, uh, Ukrainian artillery can do a lot of damage to the Russians, and the archer especially will be very effective in dealing punishment to Russian positions. And the archer, it's obviously a wheeled artillery piece. It's not tracked. So it will rely more heavily on roads than, say, tracked self-propelled guns. But if we take a look at the area here west of the town of Yampil, between Yampil and the larger town of, oh, forgot the name here, but we have a larger city, town, and then we have a smaller town of Yampil. This forested area, as you can see, tons and tons and tons of small roads all over the place, where the archers can move in and out of cover. They can move along the roads, fire their 3 to 4 rounds, and they get moving again. And a kilometer away from where they were, they can then just make a left turn into the woods and vanish from the watchful eyes of drones and what have you. So this terrain here is perfect for the archer. They can pop out of nowhere, open fire, and then skedaddle out of dodge and hide from drones and counter battery. And if we stay in the same area here, west of Yampel, if we zoom in a bit on the forest, we can see that, there's so many roads cutting through the woods here that it will basically be impossible for the Russians to locate the archers as they're moving around in this area. Oh yeah, it's 8 archers, by the way, that Sweden has deployed to Ukraine. So 8 archers, maybe all will be deployed here, or they split them up, I don't know. But the archers in this area will have plenty of roads to utilize and a lot of cover to hide in. And artillery has always been called the king of the battlefield because artillery dominates the battlefield. It will destroy the most enemies, and it can force the enemy to make decisions unlike any other branch of the armed forces. And you always have to take into consideration that artillery can hit you at any time. A tank needs a line of sight. Soldiers need line of sight. Artillery doesn't. All they need is a recon unit or a drone that will call in your location, and then the enemy artillery will open fire on you. So, for good reason, artillery has been called king of the battlefield. And if we look back through all the wars taking place for the greater part of 130 years, I believe it's artillery that has inflicted 70 to 75% of casualties in all wars combined. That should tell you something how important artillery is and why exactly it is the king of the battlefield. And if artillery is king, then the archer is the king of kings. And I will provide a link in the description below to just to emphasize the point. It's a video showing just how fast the archer can open fire and how fast it can leave the area, how impressive its shoot and scoot capabilities are. And basically it's going from driving to full stop to taking its first shot in only 23 seconds. So imagine an archer is moving down the road and they call in the coordinates for an artillery strike that needs to happen immediately, right? As soon as the driver hits the brake and the vehicle stops, 23 seconds later, artillery rounds are fired towards the enemy. That is incredible. That's just insane. And then the archer can follow that up with 2 or 3 more rounds being fired, then packing everything back into place, and then get back on the move. And all of this happens in 74 seconds. So the enemy, they have to, if they want to fire on the archer, they need to calculate where the archer was firing from. And remember, that projectile shows up after what, 25-30 seconds, and then they need to backtrack the trajectory, and then they need to arrange so artillery can be realigned to hit that specific spot, and then they need to fire and get shots on target within what, 40-60 seconds. Because if they don't, the archer has already left the area, and when enemy artillery eventually land, there's nothing there to hit. And what's even more incredible is that the entire thing can be operated by a single crew member, right? It has a 3-man crew, but it only needs one guy to operate the entire thing. And once it meets up with its supply truck, it can reload its entire magazine of, is it 20 rounds, I believe, in 10 minutes. So, I mean, this is the perfect shoot and scoot artillery piece, and Russia will struggle to deal with this deadly piece of kit. Now, there is a real threat to the archers. There's no denying that. And that is the threat of drones. I believe that the archer will be too fast for the Russians to effectively deal with it with counter battery fire, for the reasons I've previously mentioned. However, if they have drones, like loitering drones that are just, scouring the countryside, they could, by pure chance, come across an archer as it's on the move, or maybe spot one of the archer supply vehicles that is moving, and then they could follow that vehicle as it moves up and meets up with an archer to reload, for instance. And then they, of course, could take the opportunity to hit the archer and take one out. I think that is a major concern for the archers. And it's not unlikely that 1 or 2 archers will be lost to drones in this way. And since archers kind of are a high-profile target, it's not unthinkable that that might convince Russia to, like it says, put extra effort into locating an archer in order to destroy it, simply to gain some propaganda points. uh, and in so doing, actually ignoring other targets because they want the archer. They need to find an archer to destroy it specifically for propaganda purposes. So if they see other artillery pieces, they ignore them because they want to save the drones to strike at an archer, right? And because losing one piece of artillery, it won't affect the front line at Crimea. But if they manage to take out something like an archer that is a high profile target, that would be an important propaganda victory for Russia. So I think it's not entirely unlikely that they might do something like this, like put a lot of effort into finding an archer, and that effort in itself hampers their war effort locally because they ignore other targets of opportunity. But they go after the archer because they want one just for propaganda purposes. So basically, all in all, if they only show up with one archer at an area, that will boost Ukrainian war efforts in that region, and it will also potentially affect how Russia utilizes their drones, Russian assets, if they want to chase one archer down just to score those propaganda points that they will get if they can release a video of an archer, this high profile artillery piece, getting destroyed. So basically, no matter how you twist and turn it, in the end, archers, the king of kings, will be a real headache for the Russians in this war.